This is Empire Sports Alliance, unfiltered. No fluff, no filters, just the real side of sports. We're talking athletes, coaches, agents, doctors, executives, the people behind the scenes who actually move the needle. From building careers to surviving the grind to winning off the field. This is where real conversations collide.
Welcome to another episode of Empire Sports Alliance Unfiltered. I'm Ronnie. I'm the wealth guy. Today we got Dominique Dafney, 6-year NFL veteran tight end and, sports broadcaster. Dominique, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Good stuff. So you're now done with your NFL career, you said, right? We talked before the show. Now you're broadcasting is your next focus in life.
Yeah. I taking swings, obviously, to try to get into that field. Obviously, with social media and everything, there's so many different ways to get into it and find your stride. But yeah, I'm still training. I mean, I always tell people, like, if they call, I'm coming, obviously, but
right.
to go to play anywhere. But I'm more so getting ready for this fall in a media sense, where we got some games coming up that I'm going to call. So I'm getting ready for those, getting excited for my football career to look a little bit different, but it should still be pretty fun.
But in the booth, it could be a lot longer, than on the field, I'm assuming, right? There's not too many 52-year-old tight ends. I don't know of any, but no. So basically, what you were saying, though, you're keeping prepared at this point. Like, so if anybody goes down in the training camp right now, obviously going on, you're ready to rock and roll.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's kind of just where I've been the past couple years. Obviously, when you're in the league and you kind of bounce around, you're a journeyman, you kind of take the mindset of just being ready regardless. Yeah. So I've just kind of kept that mentality and then put my energy into this media stuff as far as like doing tight end Tuesdays, looking to call games and whatever I do, give it my all, but also, it's hard not to want to work out. It's hard not to want to stay in shape and continue to do that, what I've been doing for honestly most of my life at this point. So it's just something that I do. It keeps me kind of in a regimen and also keeps me level-headed to know that, just to stay in the gym, stay working out, even though there might not be a call coming, it just makes me personally feel better just to stay ready, just in case anything happens. Yeah,
I mean, again, you're still young. You just, again, you played or you were ready to play last year and, you just continue on, I guess. But on that note, walk us back, Dominique, in terms of like, how did it all start? Who is Dominique Dafney? Like, where did it start? When did you start playing football? When did you know you're going to play tight end? Did you play any other sports? Floor is yours, please.
Yeah, no, I grew up playing and doing everything. Like, my mom was very adamant about saying yes to opportunities, whether it was sports, whether it was no matter what. Like, we grew up, we played football, we played basketball, we played baseball, we ran track, I was in plays, I was in musicals, we were in a drill team. I mean, there was no weekend where we were at the house, honestly. Like, we were constantly on the move, whether it was a basketball tournament, football tournament, baseball tournament, or we had a drill team competition somewhere, or like we were just constantly moving, constantly, active. And that was kind of what my mom wanted. I think she wanted me and my brother to be, well-versed and to enjoy our childhood and not necessarily put all your eggs in one basket, but to be able to, do whatever we wanted to do, like have the enjoyment of, if it's a Saturday and we're in Memphis in a drill team competition, having fun with family and friends, or it's Sunday night and you're playing a championship AAU basketball game. Like, she just wanted us to be active and enjoy our lives and have fun. And she always told us, like, there's really not anything you guys can't do. Like, you guys are so determined and you're competitive and you love competing and you love, like, we were always social butterflies, always getting in trouble in those parent-teacher conferences for talking too much. So she was like, utilize some of this stuff, utilize some of this energy you have when you're sitting in school and you can't sit still. Like, I think that's the way she wanted us to get it out. So we played every sport, we did everything. And then I started playing football.
What age was that?
I want to say like 7, 8. Obviously, it was like flag.
Okay. Yeah.
So then, but then when I was in second grade, they said I was too big to play flag football, so I had to play tackle football. So
you were scaring the other kids? What happened?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I was just too big, too physical, which I could agree with the physical part. Definitely was a hothead a little bit growing up. So I could see that. But second grade, they're like, yeah, no, he's too big. He can't play with these kids in flag football. Like, he's running people over. and this is supposed to be flag. So then they made me go up 2 grades to play 4th grade tackle football. And my brother was in the 4th grade at the time. So we played on the same team. And crazy enough, as a 2nd grader, I'm over here playing left tackle. It was my first position coming into tackle football. So, I mean, obviously that's an easy position to get some frustrations out, to get some anger out, to be physical. So that was kind of my introduction into football and into the physicality that comes with football.
You play tackle, you said? That's what you did?
Left tackle, yeah.
Left tackle.
That was my first position I ever played in tackle football. So
okay.
Started there, moved to fullback, then moved to running back, and then moved to receiver. So, I mean, I jokingly say there's nothing on a football field I haven't done besides snap the ball. That's literally it.
Do you play any defense as well or no?
Yeah, I played linebacker and DB. Linebacker in like middle school. I played DB in high school before, I guess, varsity.
You started on the field on the left tackle position, and then all of a sudden you're defensive back on the other side.
Yeah, everywhere.
Okay.
That's the one thing about being from the Midwest. You kind of have to be versatile. They'll put you anywhere. They don't really care. As long as you're on the football field, unless you're like one of the dudes who's like 5'10" in the 3rd grade on accident, like you're going to be able to play anywhere. And they'll play you anywhere. If you could throw, they'll let you throw. If you can run the ball. So you had to kind of be an all-around Swiss Army knife from the jump. So then that kind of translated well when I moved over to receiver, because obviously I went to Iowa as well. So the one thing you're going to need to learn how to do was block. So when you go play football at Iowa, so the blocking and the physicality definitely translated well over there. And then just learning how to run routes, and always knew how to catch the ball really well.
When you got to Iowa, you're saying you played receiver at that point when you got recruited?
I played receiver from all of high school and all of college. I played receiver.
Okay, even with Iowa. So, and so you were always recruited, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that recruiting process, right? Originally, you're from North Carolina is where you were born, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, okay.
Lived there for about 3-4 years, and then moved back to Iowa, where I spent the rest of my childhood.
Okay.
And then went to Iowa Western out of high school and hated the JUCO life. Absolutely everything about it I couldn't stand. The food, the fact that you're in the middle of nowhere, the classes, everything about that was not for me.
You didn't enjoy it. Okay, got it.
Absolutely not. And I can remember there was one day where I was having a good day, and I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. Like, I was having a good day, had a good practice. I think I hit a PR in the weight room too on squat. So I was like, it was like 555 or something like that. Something ridiculous. Like, I don't need to be putting up those numbers as a receiver, but was just having a good day. Went to the caf to get some food. There's mold on my lettuce. As I take a bite into the sandwich, there's mold all over the lettuce. I was like, yeah, I'm going back to my room. I'm like, of course, like, can't just have a good day at JUCO. Like, something has to go wrong. So I was just, as soon as Iowa came calling, like, even though it was just a preferred walk-on, I'm like, we're getting out of here. There's no way I could do another year of this.
They call you up and say, hey, come in for just a workout?
They came to our spring practice and saw me work and saw me practice. And then I talked to the coach a couple times, and he was like, well, we'll get back to you. Like, we like your physicality. We like your frame. You can run. And I want to say it was spring break, and they emailed me that we're going to offer you a preferred walk-on. And literally before I even talked to my parents, I was like, yeah, I'm taking it. Because there was just no going back to Iowa Western for me. That it was just the JUCO life was, honestly, it was probably worse than the NFL.
Worse than the NFL? I want to hear that.
As far as like business wise, and it was 100%. Well, like if you knew the coaches, or if you had connections, or if you were a bounce back, which is like if you came from P4 going back to JUCO, like, you had the best chances. If you didn't, good luck. Like, they didn't really care about you.
So you're saying it wasn't really ability, on the field. You're saying it's like all political, or a lot of it was?
Yes. If you had stars, if you came from a different, we had guys come from Florida State, from Minnesota who came back. Like, if you were a bounce back, there's a good chance that they were going to play you. So that was kind of the way politics works in JUCO. Like, if you have like stars and names and offers behind you, like, there's a good chance you're going to play. If you don't, then you're going to have to get the scraps, essentially. So that whole lifestyle, that whole thing, it really wasn't for me. I just played football because I loved it. And that was my biggest thing. I didn't look at it as a business yet. So I was young and naive, and I just loved playing football, and I thought that was enough. And it turned out it was
good reason,
not.
right?
Yeah.
But Anyway, so you're basically like, screw this, I'm going. Now you're at Iowa, right? And again, as a receiver, right?
Yeah. Nice.
So, because again, I know you play tight end because I'm just thinking Iowa, like, Kittle, Hawkinson, Noah
Yeah.
Fant. You guys have a bunch of like great, tight ends coming out of that place as well. But from a receiver perspective, obviously, again, it's a run first type of, approach there. So you learned how to block early on. That was kind of like, how you got started, or walk us through?
Yeah. No, it was obviously I was 6'2", 220 at that time.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty decent size for a receiver. Like most of the
Yeah.
other guys are like 190, like 205. So
Yeah.
being that big like that, you're like, yeah, you're going to be a major blocking receiver for us. And then that, like, just the fact that you go to Iowa, they run the ball all the time. So you're going to have to learn how to block, and you're going to have to be very good at it. You're going to have to be physical. Like, that just comes with the nature of it. And I guess all of these, stops along the way kind of help me in a sense, like playing left tackle, playing fullback, playing receiver, playing wildcat quarterback, whatever, like all that stuff kind of helped me then transition over to tight end when I got to the league, because everything that I learned and everything that I kind of had as far as like skill sets and what I got to learn through my football career, like those all came to fruition when I moved to tight end. Because, what do? You got your hand in the dirt like a fullback. You're blocking, you're running routes. You can sometimes run with, like, they'll sometimes hand the ball off to a tight end. There's everything that I got to do along the way of my football path came out in the form of a tight end. So, everything that kind of happened, it kind of just happened, organically, and kind of worked out in the best. But then I didn't even know anything about playing tight end. I wanted to play in the league so bad. I was like, whatever they asked me to do, if they asked me to be a holder, like, I'll do it. I really don't care.
Wall snapping. Got it.
Anything. Like, if they want to check that last box off the list of me snapping the ball, by any means, I'll do it.
But in terms of like you being a receiver, obviously a lot of receivers, they want to catch the ball, right? So you never looked at that as a negative per se, playing at Iowa. You also had other reasons you wanted to leave the rest behind and go play there. But you feel like in terms of like as a player from a development perspective, it helped you to do all these different things versus just being like a pure receiver, running down the field? Or
I think for me, yeah. I think the biggest thing, my biggest strength, obviously, when I was going into league, is that I heard was like you're very like you're a Swiss Army knife. So there's so many things that you could do, and part of that was from Iowa, and the fact that learning how to be a pro, learning how to block, learning how to run routes, learning how to play special teams at a high caliber, doing all those things, the mentality of being a pro, because that's how Iowa runs their program, like they're the Patriots. So I think a lot of that I learned from Iowa was just how to be a pro and how to, prepare at the highest level and play against some of the best athletes in the world.
Yeah. Like, actually, you just brought up special teams. How did that help in your development as a player overall?
Well, you even as a receiver, like, you have to learn how to tackle.
Yeah.
Like from day one, like you're coming in there thinking you're going to run routes, and then they got you in a tackling circuit, and you're just like, I never even learned how to tackle or any of that stuff, and how to shed blocks. And there's so much about special teams that people don't even notice. Is just the fact that you have to be good at certain things that you wouldn't even think about. Like, as a receiver, getting off of a 3-point stance when you're on punt or punt return, like, why would you need to know that? Like, as a receiver, or having to learn how to block a kick, or having to learn how to tackle with the correct shoulder and have the correct leverage and chop, like, that's just all around being a football player is what special teams is. Can you play football in any position? Can you tackle? Can you block kicks? Can you block? Can you shed a block? There's so much about that special teams aspect that you really have to hone in on every single part of being a football player. And obviously you could watch Iowa on Saturdays. They really hone in on 3 phases being, their weapons on defense, on offense, and of course on special teams. So being there and then putting such an importance on being a good special teams player, I was able to carry that over again into my professional career, and it helped me stick around for a while.
Yeah, just what you're describing in terms of the way you learn and developed over there, it's like, to me, it's very pro, like style, in terms of playing football, so, because obviously the first thing you hear if people on an NFL squad, they're very versatile, right? You could utilize them in different situations and all that stuff. From a tight end or receiver perspective, again, depends on the receiver, but if you have the ability to block, I think you just find your way on the field more so. And I think would you agree, like a program like this, and obviously it's hard to talk about other programs, you weren't there, but, really prepares you well in terms of the way the NFL, the pros are like actually playing?
100%. And I think not only on the field, but off the field as well. Like, obviously, we learned how to practice at 100%. We learned, you'd be surprised how many people you go to a special teams drill and they have no idea what they're doing. And it surprised me, like at the NFL level, to see guys be like,
Oh, you're talking on the NFL level.
At the NFL level, where they get to a special teams drill, they have no idea. Like, they were never taught that because they never had to play special teams.
Yep.
So, and that's something at Iowa where they tell you from the jump, like, as a freshman, like, this is the way you can get on the bus immediately. Be good on special teams. And then as you become good at special teams, that's how you build that trust. And once you build that trust there, we could trust them on special teams. I could trust them, to block the right guy in KOR. I could trust them to run the right route. I could trust them. It's kind of building that, not only the trust, but it's also building your confidence of being able to play at that level. If you feel like you can go on the field and play special teams and make a tackle and doing all these other things, like it's easy to run a route. It's easy to be able to do that if you're doing stuff that you haven't been able to, work as hard on. It's kind of building that confidence and building that trust, not only in yourself, but obviously the coaches see you. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. So being able to see players play with that physicality and make plays on special teams, I think that also helps with coaches trusting you on offense or on defense to make the right play, to be in the right position. And then, you kind of just take that and run with it. And in the league, there's this, it's tenfold. You think everything in the league is on film. When you're on that, they have 3 angles of you running a route or 3 angles of you blocking somebody. So
there's nothing you take can hide, right?
It's insane. You wouldn't even understand. I didn't even understand like that they had that many. Like, you're going through film and you're seeing this angle from in front of you, from behind. Like, the solo is like there's nothing that they miss. So you kind of take that mindset of being able to build that respect, or not the respect, but build the trust on special teams. Build the trust in your coaches and yourself. And then it also just carries over. But then you also talk about off the field, being able to prepare, being able to lock in, whether it's game plans, whether it's watching film, whether it's taking care of your body. They like I said, they run it like the Patriots. I think Coach KF was with Belichick at the Browns at one point, or
back in the 80s?
Yeah, they were coaching together at the Browns. I think they took a lot from each other, because even though like Iowa's not getting any 5 stars compared to Alabama back in the day, the way they ran their program, it was identical. And I talked to friends here that went to Alabama, and I tell them about it, and they're like, yeah, that sounds exactly how we would do our stuff, because they grew up, I guess they grew up together as coaches. So they took a lot from each other. So being able to be a pro's pro out of college, that's why you see a lot of Iowa football players still in the league, because they get there. You don't have to teach them how to be a pro. You don't have to teach them how to prepare for games, how to take care of their body. And that's something you learn from day one when you're at Iowa.
I think one of my favorite players went to Iowa. Brandon Scherf, the tackle?
Yes.
Yeah. He must be like, everybody knows him there, right? So
his jersey's up. I'm pretty sure his face is still up somewhere in the building.
Yeah, that guy was awesome. But no, Saban was of that kind of like same coaching staff with Belichick. Mm-hmm. You're not going to hear me rave too much about Belichick, because I'm a Jets fan, so we'll leave that aside. But so did you learn, was there like how was the camaraderie over at Iowa in terms of, did you benefit from being around some of these players that, are now making, waves in the NFL?
100%. The reason I'm out in Tennessee, in Nashville, is because I got to meet George Kittle in Iowa. Yep. So being able to learn from him, learn from CJ Beathard, who lives out here too.
Oh yeah.
Like
quarterback.
Those guys, that's the reason I'm out here. They brought me out here. They're like, yeah, come work out with us. Yeah. I get to learn from one of the best tight ends to ever play tight end. TJ's out here too. TJ Hawkinson's out here. So the fact that I got to learn from them then and now, it definitely helped in it turned my game up so much from the year 1 to year 2, just learning how to play tight end, learning how to take care of your body, being in kind of this tight end factory in Nashville. None of that would have happened had I not gotten a chance to go to Iowa and learn from some of those guys. And the locker rooms were so much fun, going out in Iowa City after the games, tailgates, Iowa City is one of one. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, yeah. So fun time. Yeah, it seems like really good, like great organization and stuff. That's good. That's good stuff. Then you went on to Indiana State, right? You played there as well.
Yeah. No, I was 2019. I grad transferred there, and I initially went there because one of my childhood friends and actually high school rivals went there. His name was Ryan Boyle. He was at Iowa initially, and then also grad transferred the year before I did to Indiana State, and I saw they were doing good things, and he was a starting quarterback, and they had won more games than they had like in a while. So I was like, okay, this team's actually like trending in the right direction. I went up there on a visit, got to meet some of the coaches, and they were all like very like really good coaches. They had been coaching together at University of Michigan, and then they all came to Indiana State and were coordinators. So, they were actually coming in kind of their own shoes and kind of making names for themselves in the coaching ranks. So I was like, I think this is an amazing opportunity to play. Obviously at Iowa, I was more so just a special teams guy. So I went to Indiana State thinking, this would be a great opportunity to be able to finish my last year of college out with a bang, but then also get a chance to play offense and, have fun for one more year.
You became more of a bigger, offensive weapon when you were at Indiana State, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that changed in terms of like the way you're playing. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit more? Were you a focus point of the offense right off the bat? How did that work?
Yeah, no, it was a little pulling teeth because I was the new guy. So they were all kind of, I guess, testing the waters a little bit, trying to make sure I could play. I wasn't just, a guy who went to Iowa and bounced back. So they were trying to test me at first, and then I think I won them over a little bit as the year went on, and then it kind of unfortunately happened where Ryan, my buddy that I grew up with, he actually tore his ACL like game 4, and then our backup quarterback like pulled his hamstring like really bad in like game 6. So like they were just down. We were down to quarterback number 3 by the second half of the season, and we were just losing games, and then I think we lost against South Dakota State. And then our coaches came to me and was like, hey, we're going to put in a Wildcat for you on Monday. Like, be ready to do some extra film and get ready for it. We just want to have it. Like, we want to get you the ball in your hands and see what you could do. I said, okay. Like, fine by me.
Which is strange sometimes, right? Obviously, it's a team sport. You want to win as a team. But then at the same time, opportunities open up because the team overall is losing. Unfortunately, somebody gets injured. And there you go. Your opportunity. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, they came to me like randomly. It was literally like after we lost. Like I hadn't even taken my shoulder pads off. And they were like, we were in the locker room, and head coach came up to me and was like, yeah, we're gonna try some stuff. Like, be ready to go next week. I said, okay. So when the opportunity presented itself, like whatever they needed me to do, I was gonna do. I just wanted to win. Again, I told you I just wanted to enjoy my last season, have some fun, and enjoy playing football. So when they threw the opportunity for me to be the Wildcat quarterback, there's no way I was going to say no. I mean, to get the ball in your hands immediately, I don't have to throw it. I can just run with the ball. Like, that's perfect. That's all I've wanted. So when they came and threw that at me, I was just like, yeah, we're doing that.
Did you, there must be some place where you would, actually throw a pass too.
It was funny actually, because I was supposed to throw a pass. We were playing UNI, and I came down on kickoff. Because I was playing Wildcat quarterback, but they wanted to take me off of all special teams because I was playing Wildcat quarterback. I'm like, nah, like at least let me stay on kickoff so I could like make a tackle or whatever. Came on kickoff, I like hit somebody really hard and like ran them over. So then my shoulder was so numb, like there was no way I was going to be able to throw the ball, but I didn't tell anybody. We had a throw that was in the game. So it was like, thank God he didn't call it, because there was no way I was going to be able to throw the ball. Like my shoulder
You would have had to tuck it in and call an audible.
Yeah, I would have had to like pump fake like I was going to throw it and just be like, nah, just because I could barely get my arm over, like my shoulder over my head or my elbow over my head. There was the fact that they had the throw designed up ready for me to do it, but we just never called it. And I came to my coach, I think it was like that next Monday meeting, and I told him what happened. I was like, there was no way I was going to be able to throw the ball. And he was like, are you serious? I was like, I'm just glad you didn't call it, because there was no way I was going to throw that ball. Yeah.
You didn't call it, so you're all good. As far as he knows, you completed the game plan as was. So
exactly.
You transferred that senior year. Obviously this is a few years back in terms of, talking a little bit more about the business aspect, NIL, as it is now in comparison to then, on the college level. It wasn't the same for you, I would imagine, or was it? Even from a
No.
recruiting perspective, initially, again, with Iowa, then, can you kind of describe a little bit what you see back then versus like what you see currently going on?
Well, I mean, back then it was just like, I don't want to say it was just more promises, but it was kind of more just like promises. Like they
Yeah.
were telling you what you could do for the team and, how they're going to utilize you. You're going to come here and start day one and this, that, and the third. I feel like today it's more so money. Everything's money driven or, NIL driven. It's kind of more so the wild, wild west these days where there's not many rules. Obviously there was black and white rules. Obviously there was things you could do. There was things you could not do. I feel like today, if there's a gray area, they kind of just go to court and figure it out or they just do it. And then, what do they always say? Like, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Like they just go ahead and do stuff. And then, if they do something wrong, they're just like, well, you didn't tell us we couldn't do that. So
Right.
it was
going
definitely,
forward, yeah, exactly.
It was definitely a lot more, I don't want to say black and white, but it was like they would tell you what you wanted to hear. And I understand that's kind of recruiting in general, but like when I was coming in, there wasn't like, oh, we're going to get this guy with 2 M's and he's going to pay him and you weren't looking over your shoulder at another guy. Well, he got 1.2. I should be getting this, that, and a third. Like it just wasn't really like that. Like you kind of just, at least for me, I just wanted to be a part of the team. I know a lot of guys back then it was, scholarships do it. Are they going to offer me? Are they going to offer me? Are they going to offer me? For me, I just wanted to be on a team and play football somewhere.
Yeah, I think it changed. I mean, if you look at it from a neutral perspective, you don't necessarily think it's a good thing what's going on currently, it seems like.
I mean, I think some of it is good. I think some of it is definitely good. The bad part about it is there's no rules to it.
No ramifications of any sort. It's just kind of like everybody
the NCAA had such like a hold on everybody. And all their players. And, they were fighting against that for years and for years and for years. And then they just one day was like, you know what? Y'all do what y'all want to do. And now everyone's doing what they want to do. And everything kind of just goes, whether it's NIL, whether it's transfer portal.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing I don't like is they kind of just let everyone just be. It is like a huge overcorrection because there's way too many rules.
Oh, yes.
Now there's not enough. Yeah. So they're kind of just letting it go, and whatever happens. And if people don't like the rule, they'll just find a judge to say, you know what? No, we actually say that is possible or that they can do that. So there's kind of there's no, like you said, ramifications. There's no law. There's no order. There's no checks and balances. People kind of just do whatever they want these days. And the only thing I really don't like is the way that the transfer portal has gotten so out of control. I'm all for guys getting their money and getting paid what they should be paid. I think if you go on to 5 schools in 5 years, like that's a bit absurd. I think that's kind of waters down college football a little bit.
Well, plus, because again, it's still a team sport, right? And in terms of like, you see, I guess it makes it tougher from a coaching staff, perspective as well. You're recruiting. If that person's not playing, yet is a good player, the next school is going to be, calling, so to speak. I just don't know from an educational perspective as well, that in terms of like, graduating, right? And if you have that constant change, I just don't know if that is helpful because again, a lot of football players in college are never going to play pro. And that's not me being mean. That's just, statistical fact, right? Yeah. So, what do you have to fall back on, right? It should be your education. So, the coaches that we had on this show, it's like the vast majority of them just all kind of had the same. Yes, it's good that, that these players, are able to make that money. Right? Because, the schools have made it before, right? Coaches, et cetera, gotten paid, et cetera, the TV deals. But then it almost seems like a, pay for play versus just like, and that, I guess, obviously they're looking at it. I was just wondering what your take was in terms of, again, playing back then, what you see now. That just, probably need.
It is like, how are you supposed to, from an athlete standpoint, how are you supposed to grow as a player if, you're bouncing around so much, if you can't ever find, any stability, if you can't, if you're going to 3 different schools, 4 or 5 different schools, I guess I can't say 3 different schools. I went to 3 different schools, but if you're going to 4 or 5 different schools, switching every year, like where's the stability in that? How do you grow as a player? How do you, especially in a time where it's one thing in the NFL to do that, like you're an adult at that point. Yeah. When you're in college, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Like if you told me when I was 20 years old, I would have gone to 3 different schools before I was 21. Like, I don't know that, like, there's not really, you don't really grow from that. I don't know. Like, in my mind, just thinking about it, like, there's so much that you don't learn when you have to start over. There's so much that you lose from having to start over. There's so much that you kind of miss by having to start over. So it's just, how can you, as an athlete, wanting to, grow with these players, grow as an athlete, grow with the team, like there's so much that you're missing out on by being at a third program in 3 years that you would have got if you would have just stayed somewhere for 3 years, maybe transferred for one, and then like that stayed there for 2 years. I just feel like there's so much that these kids are missing out on as far as like the college experience, the college athlete experience, getting to know your coaches, getting to know your teammates, getting to know the community that you're in, that you kind of cherish when you leave. And if you don't have any of that when you're there, what was the whole point of going to college if you didn't do that?
It's not just, growing as an athlete, right? It's also growing as a person, as an individual. I think, football tells you or teaches you a lot about life as well, right? So in terms of like one thing that we can all guarantee, if you're younger, middle-aged, older, you're always going to find, that you will face adversity one way or the other, right? So is your first option going to be like, hey, how can I circumvent that? How can I find an easier way? Yeah. Or does it teach you at an early age, say, hey, look, here's how I'm going to overcome that, right? So if I'm not playing because somebody's ahead of me, am I going to work harder? Am I going to make sure and show them that they can't, one of the college coaches always says like, look, I will find you. If you're good, we will find you. You will be out there. If that's a court, if that's a football field, etc. And I think from that experience, it sometimes, a lot of these guys are super talented, right? They can go from one place to the next. I get that. But do you really grow as an individual? But, again, there's also a lot of money in place. So I, to a certain extent, understand. But
no, I get that. But I mean, you're right. Because football literally is adversity. Like, you're trying to do something as people are trying to stop you from doing it.
Yes.
Whether you're on the line, whether you're a quarterback, whether the game is literally adversity. You're trying to score. They're trying to stop you. You're trying to run a route. They're trying to hinder you from running a route. They're trying to, like, everything about it is some form of fashion of adversity. So if you can't even deal with, there were times that when I was at Iowa where, I felt like I should have been playing, but like, you just have to keep working. And, you take that and you put that energy into stuff that's off the field, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's in in the film, you find a way to use that pent up aggression and you take it out on something else. Like, if you're just running from fights and you're running from situations and you're just trying to look for the easiest route, like, you're hindering yourself, like you said, not only as an athlete, but as a person, because when you leave football, and I'll tell you this from a personal perspective, when you leave football, I guarantee you're going to run into adversity immediately. Like, the day of, when you decide to not play football anymore, you're going to look at yourself, you're going to wake up at 8 a.m. because you'll wake up at 8 a.m. because your body's wired that way. And then you're going to ask yourself, what the hell am I supposed to do now? You have no idea. There's adversity right there. But what did you do for 5 years? You ducked smoke every single time adversity came. So now, because I didn't, and a lot of athletes didn't, now we get to wake up at 8 a.m. and you think, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know one thing for sure, I'm going to get up and work, because that's what I've been doing. So if you're constantly, as an athlete, trying to escape that, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting your future, and like, you're going to have to give up football at some point, like, no matter what. Even Tom Brady, one of the best players to ever play football, had to retire. So it's like, if you're just ducking these situations, if you're ducking adversity, you're kind of hurting yourself. And that's an unfortunate truth that's come up with today's age of college football.
Yeah, I think if you look at football itself, it's going to offer you as many opportunities as it will challenges, right? The question is how you're going to overcome that, how you're going to go deal with that, which I think is a life lesson, as much as it's a lesson in football, right? I'm pretty sure as you're going into the broadcasting, and I'm not expert, but there might be other players that say, you know what, I want that broadcasting gig too, right? You might not going to be the only one. You might be in you're the best suited for it, but you're going to have to fight. You have to, find ways and say, hey, look, guys, this is why you want me, X, Y, Z, right? But it's never going to come. It's not going to be just handed to you, I guess. So.
Yeah. No, there's no more of that, because there's a lot of that when you grow up in football. We all know, like, the biggest guy, the fastest guy, they, especially as you're in high school, maybe in college, you can get away with that. Like, you can get away with just
Yeah.
being fast. You can get away with just being big and strong. And you could get away with just being, the guy, the 5-star guy.
Yeah.
Until you get on the field. And you have to actually put that work in. That's after football. That's what that is. Like, yeah, playing in the NFL, having connections, all that stuff will get you in the room. Sure, of course. But when you turn the lights on, when they push record, whatever you have to do, when you clock in, are you putting that work in? Are you doing extra stuff to, stay around, to stick around, to be, better, to get better? All that is that's literally the definition of playing a collegiate sport. That's the definition of playing sports, is constantly finding ways to get better, constantly finding ways to push yourself to new heights. And like, if I know we're going to keep saying it, but like, if you're going to find a way to get around that, I mean, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because, like you said, in broadcasting, there's ESPN, there's Fox, there's CBS.
Right.
Yeah. There's not a lot of room for everybody, but there's, wrapped around the building of people who want to do it, of people who want to be Kirk Herbstreit, who want to be, Tom Brady, Tony Romo, who want to be those guys. So it's just like, you have to be able to grind and understand, like, I have to put in a certain amount of work in order to get to where I want to get. Being an athlete, being this 5-star name is only going to get me so far. But if you're not willing to put in that work, put in that extra little bit of time, then it's just not going to be what you assume it's going to be. Not everybody's just going to, bow down to the fact that you were in the NFL. There's plenty of people who don't care. Like, you will go to, especially if you're like in business, or you will go to these meetings, or you will sit in these rooms and they will look at you. They don't care. It'll be nice. They'll talk to you like, oh yeah, what was it like playing? But that's not going to get the job done. There's so much more that you have to put in and work towards in order to even get into those rooms and get those positions.
No, but I think you're bringing up a good point as well, right? Okay, being in the NFL, having the experience that you have, it's probably going to get you around some folks, let's just say from a media perspective, but in other ways, like a coaching staff that others don't have. The question is, as you're planning and thinking, again, see, to me, from a sports perspective as well as from a business, like I'm the well side, I plan things ahead, right? If you're a player out there, when you're playing, you gotta develop those relationships, be that on the coaching staff, be that from a media perspective, that are going to help you later if you have a vision, if you have a plan in place. And I think that's where you're going to be different from others, where it's like, hey, you just enjoy the limelight, you're playing, you worry about your stuff. And that's great, but I think there's more to it. You have to have a plan in place because, as we already said, I can be doing this, have these conversations with you till I'm 70. Mm-hmm. You cannot play NFL tight end till you're 70. So, and a lot of times, and I mentioned this before, people, especially in professional sports, football and other sports as well, you have to make life decisions at a very young age with not as much life experience. And not only that, but that career where you accumulate those, connections, if it's wealth, etc., is so compressed, the timeline you have. How long does the average NFL player actually play? I mean, what is it?
I think the average is like under 3 years.
3 years around? Yes. So you have 3 years time, right? 3 years. And you got to build a lot for that. That's what I'm saying. Going back to the college discussion, again, educational, et cetera, making the money, the transferring, you should always start planning, and hopefully you're surrounded by people that can help you with that. But yeah, talking about adversity a little bit real quick. So in terms of so you go undrafted after college, right? And then eventually you find your way with the Green Bay Packers, right? Is that how it came about? How was that journey like on that end?
It was, you want to talk about adversity. That was 100% that. Yeah, finished at Indiana State and then went undrafted, went unsigned, and that was 2020. So there was no workouts. Yeah. There was no going to teams during the summer, and they have guys come in and do workouts during the summer. There was none of that. They didn't even have summer workouts. They didn't have, they had meetings, but everything was over Zoom.
Sure.
They weren't even letting people in the facilities until mid-July. So from April to, I want to say July 15th, around there, it was crickets. I didn't hear a single thing. So I was just back in Iowa, working out, training every day, kind of with no light at the end of the tunnel. Didn't really know what to do. I was kind of thinking of quitting. I was thinking of just going back to school, maybe, finishing my master's. because I wanted to be a physical therapist back then. So I was thinking, you know what, let me just go back to PT school, finish that. And then, that was it for my football career. At least I went out on a high note, and I was just still training, just still trying to figure things out. And then they finally opened up facilities. So I got a call for a workout with the Colts. And, it was, I finally got my opportunity. So we're going 110%. I mean, I at that point, I still didn't know anything about playing tight end. So I had played receiver again, and then Wildcat court. So I didn't know anything about playing tight end. I didn't know what 9 tech was. I didn't know any of that. Nothing. So when I got to the workout and he told me he was like, oh yeah, we're going to do outside zone. You got a 9 tech. You're at Y. I want you to reach him. I mean, he might as well have been speaking Spanish because I had no idea what any of that meant. And I was just like, so you want me to go that way? He goes, yeah. I was like, that's all you had to say. Because all that other stuff, I had no idea. So then it was just blocking, running routes, but I was doing everything at 110%. I almost messed up because I told the coach, I was like, man, I'm tired. He goes, you look a little gassed. I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. Because every drill, every route, every block, I'm going 110% because I know that feeling of not hearing my name called, of not hearing the phone ring, of having to sit home and not really know what was next and having to unfortunately answer. Everybody's like, what's going on with football? And I had to keep telling everybody, I don't know. So, just that feeling of just disappointment and being stuck in Iowa when I knew I wanted to play football, I carried that with me into that workout and just everything was 110%. And then I actually got signed off that workout. So then stayed with them for the rest of camp, had a great camp, thought I was going to actually make the practice squad until they picked up a veteran tight end off waivers on the last day, like within the last 30 minutes before the waiver wire shut down. They picked up the tight end. So then I didn't have a spot. So then I had to go back home, back to Iowa. But, having that experience, there was kind of no going back. Once I kind of finally got my foot in the door, that for me, it was just like, yeah, this is what we're doing. There's no going back. PT school, be damned. I'm not doing none of that. I'm going back here. I'm taking care of my body, eating right, training 2 times a day. Like this is it. So, and then I had a workout with the Patriots and the Packers, and then nothing came from those. So I went back home after, and then I want to say it was around October is when I got a call from the Packers that they were like, yeah, we want to sign you to the practice squad. And literally went home, packed everything I had into a little bag, and then flew out the next day. Like it was on after that. And I was so excited for the opportunity and still kept that mentality of, this is what we're doing. So I kept that chip on my shoulder and kept that image of me after that final day of the draft where I was just in my room. It was quiet and I was just so disappointed that I didn't hear anything. And that feeling of loneliness, that feeling of disappointment, of feeling like I failed, I just kept it with me. Every single day that I was in Green Bay, every day that I was in Indianapolis, that was just ringing in the back of my head. Like, we're not going back to that. That situation where I was in my bed, so disappointed, so upset, like, there's no going back for me. So I just kept chugging along. I was locked in and made the most out of the situation.
That was that the time when Aaron Rodgers was still there, right?
Yeah. That was his 3rd MVP season. So he won back-to-back in 2020 and 21. So,
do you have any interaction with him ever? Anything? Any observation?
Plenty. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because it was COVID. All we had was each other. We couldn't do nothing else. So
I think he's currently talking about that as well. So that's interesting.
He's getting his victory lap off for sure, as he should. Because
that was awesome. Like
he's talking his talk, as they like to say.
He's getting his money's worth.
No, he was one of the. He's the GOAT, to be honest. He's a great player. He's a great quarterback. He's a great teammate. He's a great person. And like I say it all the time, like there is no way I would have lasted 6 years in the league without playing with Aaron Rodgers, without playing alongside Mercedes Lewis, without playing alongside Rob Tonyan, without playing alongside Devontae Adams, and getting to learn from them, even if they weren't like talking to me directly. Like, I'm listening, because those are some of the greatest players to ever play football. So like, even hearing how they take care of their body, like what they do when they're not at the facility. Mercedes, what day do you do yoga? What day when you sauna after this practice? So we got a hard practice.
time, right?
He played.
A long time.
For for just as
Wasn't he
long as
out of
Aaron.
UCLA? I think at UCLA.
Yeah, he was first
played,
rounder out of
yeah,
UCLA.
yeah. He played for the Jacks
So,
first, right? Is that who signed him?
mhm.
Oh,
And actually, it was funny because I told him, I was like, when I finally got the confidence to talk to him, because he's a big dude, so he's intimidating, and I'm a
yeah.
rookie. I'm on practice squad, so I'm head down in my notebook the whole time. So when I finally got the confidence to talk to him, I was like, "Hey, dude, what I just want to tell you, like, the first NFL game I ever went to was Jacksonville versus the Raiders in Jacksonville in like 2008." And he was like, I remember that game. I'm like, yeah, like Warren Sapp got kicked out for fighting and everything. You guys won. I was like, dude, I was literally in Jacksonville because my dad lives in Jacksonville. So I'd visit him over the summer. Went to a game with him and Mercedes. I was like, you were playing in that game and now we're teammates. He goes, bro, you just made me feel old as hell. I was just like, but it was just such a full circle moment to like, that was my first NFL game that I'd ever been to in person. And he was playing and like, now I'm teammates with you. Like, this is dope. So I just, anything he said was like gold. Like the way he took care of his body, hearing how he would run routes or hearing how because when he came in the league, he was a route runner. Like obviously he's transitioned into like an extra old lineman just because he's so big and versatile when it comes to blocking. But like when he came in, like he was a route runner.
Yeah. He
so
was.
Just being able to learn from him and how to take care of my body, you know, the mindset as far as like blocking schemes and everything, footwork, hand placement, everything, just getting to, you know, learn from him on life outside of football and how to take care of your money, how to take care of your family, like just stuff like that, you know, the stuff you wouldn't think you would learn from those guys being like in my position where I'm like on the bubble, like I'm on the outside looking in, but being able to have those conversations with guys like him, with guys like Aaron, and you know, they're just some of the like the best days ever just because it's like these are guys that I looked up to, the guys that a lot of people look up to, and they're having to, you know, they're being humble enough to share info with me, with a guy who just got here, who I got there and Aaron already knew my name, which I was just like, that's crazy.
See, not to interrupt you, but, you know, Dad, you know, obviously, again, I'm a Jets fan. I've followed Aaron Rodgers. I actually, you know, have a bunch of friends that are Packers fans and all that stuff. But, you know, he, in my opinion, in the media always gets this bad rep. And I think I've heard before, like, oh, yeah, he's not a great teammate, this and that. I just never heard it from an actual teammate of his. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, and again, you're going into media and broadcasting, I think it's just, you know, made up. Like, you know.
It is. I think a lot of the strife comes from the fact that he doesn't play nice with the media. So then it comes back to Hana. So they find ways to find ways to nitpick you, whether it's your attitude, whether it's your family. They'll find ways, but like you said, you've never heard.
Me, but, you know, because again, if you look at the COVID thing,
yeah,
I think he's doing his victory lap, you know.
He came out right in the end, so what can you say?
Yes. He caught a lot of crap for that, right, initially, but again, if
that's
you think
all
about
we heard about when we were there in 2020. That was everything. And then I remember when he caught COVID in 2021, we were playing the Chiefs, and that was Jay Love's first start. I mean, all week on every single talking head, every single look, Aaron Rodgers, look, you didn't take the vaccine. Now, look, now you're sick. Now you're missing a game. I mean, all week, that's all they were talking about. And so now that he was right, now that he had to come back, and of course he's going to say what he has to say, and the apology should be as loud as everything. It should be going on for months because that's how long they talked about that he didn't want to take a shot. Yeah,
he took it on the chin. Now it's his time. So, like, you know, but again, don't get me started on that. That's a whole topic in itself. People might get mad at me. So, but no, it's just good to hear, because I always thought, I mean, again, great player, obviously, but, you know, sometimes you see the body language and all that stuff where it's like, you know, it can get competitive on the, you know, in a workforce as well, be that from a wealth management perspective in broadcasting and stuff. So if you have a teammate and they see, hey, look, you have to run this way, and you call them out, you can look at both ways. You tell me from your experience, but it's like, we're trying to get better here, right? Mm-hmm. That's not always done by just being patting on the back and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But from a fundamental thought process, it's just like, we're trying to get better. So, you know, I feel like people these days get very sensitive with this, right? I always feel like everybody wants access to a football locker room and, hey, how are these guys really talking and all this stuff? And they want authenticity. And the last thing then they can handle is authenticity. Because, I mean, I've been in the locker room, I played hockey. Like, the language that's being used, the stuff that's being said, not everybody has the stomach for that. So, but that's still the reality, though. What's your take?
No, I think one of the best and worst things you could have done was mic people up, because now you're getting a real insight on how we talk, and it's aggressive, and it's an aggressive game. That's how we talk to each other, and
Yes.
I think I can't remember who said it, but they're like, that's what's wrong with today's athletes coming up. They never got MF'd. Because we grew up MF this, and like that's how you got talked to, because it was an aggressive sport. So we're getting talked to and we're handling situations aggressively. That's just how things go.
I don't think there's anything about football that's nice. That's the same thing in a game like hockey. It's competitive, right? I'm not saying you can't be nice off the field or off the ice, whatnot, but you're not taught to be nice to your opponent. Like
no, and I think people are really shocked by that. And they're like, it's just like, what did you think we were doing? Like talking, like we were whispering to each other. Like, what did you think happens in the locker room? Like we're getting after each other. We're talking. We're if someone messes up, you let them know. And that's just the way it's in its extreme level of accountability. And that's why everyone doesn't play NFL. That's why everyone doesn't play in the NHL. That's why everyone doesn't play professional sports. There's an extreme level of accountability, competitiveness. I mean, people want to, this is life, like not life or death, but we either win or you lose. And whether you want to win, like I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, like the cost of winning, the cost of being great is it's extreme. And some people aren't willing to do that. You know, it looks fun when you're raising the trophy and, you get the rings and you get it is really hard. And there's a lot of things you have to give up. There's a lot of things you have to sacrifice. You can't always be the nice guy. You can't always talk to everybody nice. You kind of have to be a butthole sometimes. Like there's just a lot of things that come with it that people don't, they're not willing to accept. They don't know that that's what it takes. They think it seems fun until you're running routes by yourself at 6 a.m. in an empty stadium. But that's what it's like being great. When you're Aaron Rodgers and you're watching film till 3 a.m. by yourself. And like, that's just certain levels of preparation and intensity that people aren't ready to witness. Like, it takes that much? Yes. It takes that much to be good. I'd hate for you to see how much it takes to be great.
I think, again, it can be the same thing in the workforce, be it in broadcasting or in my business, right? Not maybe to the same extreme, but in a certain way, it is. Because there's always somebody else that maybe wants your gig, maybe wants the client that you're working with, right? Again, wants the job that you want. And, again, the reality of it is, it's competitive. It's a competitive environment. I just always find it funny when people are like, oh, yeah, I really want to know. And then, give me a second here. I think we just have an alarm going off. Yeah, well, shouldn't be that bad, but yeah, what was I going to say? Well, we're coming up towards the end of this anyway. So, look, I appreciate you sharing your experience and all the good stuff. And, I think, I think you're going to do great. Obviously you're covering Iowa coming up this season. So, right?
Yeah, I'll do I think we're still going to do our Iowa football podcast.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll get to do some stuff with Big Ten, maybe some studio stuff covering Iowa. And then I'll call 4 games for SIU and then 1 game for Drake. So that'll be pretty fun.
Good stuff. Well, Dominique, I appreciate you making time coming on. This has been fun. Thank you very much.
No, yeah, appreciate it.